Mindbend. Non-ordinary and extraordinary states of consciousness for Mindbend Creative.
Elizabeth and Eric, the Cosmic Romantics, in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Woo! Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, Black Rabbit Rose is a venue in Los Angeles that does magic often?
Yes, yeah. The venue was built specifically for magic shows. I believe in 2016 is when it opened up. And there's a lot of like little places you can enter from.
It's a beautiful venue. Great. It's really cool. It's kind of haunted. It's a little bit spooky coming in. It's right off of Hollywood Boulevard. Mm-hmm. But it has its own world and atmosphere going. And I wound up there with a friend who was there to see, I believe, a musician who was performing that night.
That's right. They have music performing. They have music after the magic shows. So the magic shows are Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we're guests there every so often.
Yeah, our friend Fitzgerald runs the space, and he's the only host I think I've ever seen perform there. It's basically his show now.
He's a hoot. Him and our friend
funny.
Asia, she's a magician and she used to be a sword swallower, and she's a fire eater as well. So they're the two that are constantly there, and we come in as
breathe life
guests.
into it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was excited because it was such an incredible bonus to get to experience your performance, which really was a thorough performance through and through. You were up on one end of the stage, you're moving throughout the audience, interacting with the audience. It was like almost crowd work all the way through for the majority of that show. And I haven't seen a lot of magic in my time, magic shows. Moving to Los Angeles just 2 years ago, I've been exposed to so many more stand-up comedians, for instance. There's a lot. I've just wound up at more stand-up shows. And I did get to go to the Magic Castle last year for the first time too, but I hadn't really ever been around magic. I'm from Kansas City. To my knowledge, there aren't a lot of magic shows going on or a density of magicians. Apologies if there are and I just don't know about it, but it's exciting for me, and its relevance to the Mindbend podcast. The tag for Mindbend is non-ordinary and extraordinary states of consciousness. And I think there's something certainly extraordinary about one's consciousness when witnessing magic, and so I would have to imagine that there is an extraordinary component of your consciousness as practitioners of magic. I remember my first experience with magic was seeing Harry Blackstone on Reading Rainbow. I think that was kind of like, oh, magic is a thing, and they were talking about Houdini and, just kind of processing that. And then obviously as a kid, David Copperfield specials on TV. I think he made the Statue of Liberty disappear at some point, So big magic, and then, it kind of pops up in popular media and popular culture. Yet, I think of all the artistic pursuits, all the alchemical pursuits, all of the esoteric pursuits, magic still has a veil of magical obscurity about it. There's kind of this unspoken code that magicians don't reveal their tricks. It's a very kind of insular thing, and it's infiltrated some of the biggest media in our world. Like the NFL always shows these highlights of mentalists or sleight of hand people going to training camp and connecting with people, and everyone's floored all the time. And that feeling is very special. I want to talk with you both about that later in this podcast, but when I did get to go to the Magic Castle with a guest who's a member there and a magician as well, my brain, my consciousness was in a state of consistent stun that I could not really equate to any other experience that I'd had, being that stunned that consistently over the course of 3 hours. It wasn't like watching like a concert or like a professional sporting event where the stuff you're watching is extraordinarily remarkable, but it was really like you couldn't reconcile the moment.
Yeah, there's like a comparison between jugglers and magicians, but I think this could be a way to compare like any other art form, performative art form with magic, which is the juggler is like showing you the skill that they've spent years working on, and the magician is like purposely concealing the skill. So either like you literally don't know what they're doing that has taken a lot of practice, or they're making something look effortless, but you don't realize exactly what's going on there.
And the crazy thing is there are some tricks that are pretty effortless or they're self-working but look like miracles, and then there are some tricks that take years to master, but it's like it looks very easy and you don't realize it's a trick. So it's different performing to magicians versus laymen.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we perform for magicians, we do it to try and fool magicians. When we perform for laymen, we do it to entertain them. And like I said, when we perform for magicians, it's maybe just like one thing we do that's like a little different. And we're like, oh, they might be impressed by this. But
yeah, it's cool. It's cool to, I don't know, be on this podcast and think about how magic is the performing art where you're trying to fool someone's brain. You're trying to make something that's impossible seem possible, which sounds like a hallucination. But because like you say, going to a concert is just like, oh, they practice music and they're playing music, but, and still you might feel something deeply, but magic is about perception and tricking the mind.
We can continue to draw parallels to the psychedelic realm also, I would imagine, too, in terms of perception, interacting with the mind, potentially tricking the mind, the hallucinatory state of a trick that's well executed, or the feeling that you take away, whatever lesson have you learned from the moment, or having that revelatory moment as well. But shuttling back in time, are you born a magician?
That's a philosophical question.
Yes, I think we are. Or at least I think I am. Eric was kind of more forced into it, right?
My dad was a magician, so he forced us into it. But still, it was a weird enough childhood that justified me pursuing it.
And it is weird to call myself a magician. I don't know. I still feel like an imposter saying that. I like to see myself more as a performance artist because I dance, I sing, I do comedy, I do magic. And I started magic when I was very little. And it's easier to sell our show if we say magician. I'm a magician. But there's so much more to at least our show, I think.
And the world demands that everybody pigeonholes themselves so intensely so that you can be marketed as directly as possible, which I think is exhausting when it comes to any kind of performance and label. But
I was naturally gravitated towards magic when I was 9 years old because my baby brothers were born when I was 8.5. They're twins, and I wasn't really being paid attention to. So there was that show, The Masked Magician. And now as a magician, I realized that show is a no-no because they reveal secrets. But me as a 9-year-old little girl, I was like, wow, this is so cool. If I learn this, I can learn how to talk to people because I was very shy. And it was a great talking point. So I immediately gravitated toward it. So yeah, I feel like I was born a magician. Yes.
Matthew,
I wish
are you
I was on
familiar with that
shrooms.
show, The Masked Magician? Do you remember that?
I just remember commercials, but I never watched it.
It was so, it loomed so large in the world of magic, like, oh my God, they're doing this horrible thing, revealing all these tricks. But yet it meant so little to so many other people that it really, it didn't end magic. It didn't ruin it. And in her case, Elizabeth's case, it actually
Inspired.
Inspired.
Yeah.
On a popular level, was the show a flop?
Oh,
No, I
people
think it
loved
worked.
that show.
I think it
worked,
worked. But, I mean, they didn't make 100 of them. But they made a few, right? It was more than just one.
I don't know. I was too little to think about seasons and
But
stuff
now
like that.
with like YouTube and TikTok, like now there's even more opportunities for people to reveal tricks, and they do. And there's still like debate in the magic world about what to do about it.
There's
but
a code of ethics.
It's so out of control, but yet at the same time, magic is still here and everybody loves it.
Well, talk to me about the what I perceive as the kind of clandestine nature to the code of ethics and these exclusive club or the small shops that nobody knows about. Like, how is that maintained and what function does that serve?
I think that the original idea there is that, if you want to learn magic, you have to go about it the right way, find a mentor, read a book. Even if you go to a shop, because there are these magic shops, the person behind the counter will at least give you some kind of speech about how, like, don't perform this until you're ready, respect the art of magic, and don't reveal the secret. It might ruin it for someone. And some people truly don't want to know the secrets. Now, other people might want to know how a trick works as soon as you do it, but as magicians, you're not supposed to necessarily tell them. At least that's been the general consensus of the magic community, and I think we try to uphold that to a certain degree. But I know other great magicians who are like, yeah, if someone asks, I just tell them, But there's no way to like protect every secret, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. There could be a guy on TikTok revealing a trick, and a day later, someone who watched the video could see me do the trick, but I do it differently because I've made it my own. And
they might not even realize that it's the same trick.
Won't even realize it's the same thing.
And no, I'm not advocating for revealing tricks, but I don't think it ruins
Hasn't done it yet.
Magic. Yeah. That would be horrible. But and I'm a board member at the Academy of Magical Arts, which is the Magic Castle. It's the club that lives in the Magic Castle, and we discuss code of ethics and stuff like that. That was one of the big questions that they asked me during the Meet the Candidates, because there's this magician who has been revealing a lot of tricks online for views, and that was a question that was asked by members. And
it's not like that person can be outlawed from magic, but maybe that person won't be allowed to perform at the Magic Castle, a respected institution, you know?
Yeah, it's a tricky
Is there anything that you can compare the craft? Because my mind as a musician wants to go to, if you write a song, it's a piece of intellectual property that you've created. And early on in popular song, everybody covered everything, right? Mm-hmm. So an artist would re-record this tune, an artist would re-record this tune and put it out. And some people like that version better, some people like that version better. Somehow more people started writing their own songs or figuring out how to do that, or it became easier to do it. But there's the Recording Industry of America and ASCAP and BMI that sort of police like where music is used or who gets rewarded for its usage or whatever. But that's a very loose structure, and technology has made it absolutely kind of like pointless in a way. Is there anything though? I can't think of any other analog to like this group you're a part of and a committee saying, hey, we're kind of the custodians of like a lineage or a wisdom or a tradition, and it sort of demands like conscientious curation and care over the years. Mm-hmm. Like, is there anything else that you can think of that's like that?
Well, I grew up in music as well. I'm a songwriter and a musician as well, and when I joined the magic world 9.5 years ago, I was asking the same questions. I didn't really understand, but it feels like a cover song and a published magic trick is kind of the same kind of a thing. Like there are some magic tricks that were written, I don't know, 300 years ago or something like that, and it's published. And there are, like Beethoven or something like that. So I don't even know what the question was.
Well, I'm just trying to think. The question has disappeared. The thought is, I can't think of anything that's like magicians taking care of magic. My closest analogy was maybe somebody
like
taking care. Yes, like trying to look after the life and trajectory of a song or a piece of music.
I think I recall signing a contract when I became a member of the Magic Castle, or the Academy of Magical Arts is what it's formally known as, saying I will not reveal magic tricks. Do you remember signing something like that?
Probably,
something like that.
Yeah.
But I will respect the art of magic. It's about respecting it, and I think people who have caught the magic bug, is what they say, kind of immediately understand the respect. And that's so getting the magic bug means like you're just so interested in magic, so you start reading about a lot of magic. There's like different genres of magic. You start to learn about magicians, and then you're immediately in this club where it's like, hey, we get it. It's kind of this unspoken thing. As soon as I started learning more and more about magic, I felt more and more protective over it. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I want to keep these secrets to myself. Not to myself, but like to the magic community. But if other people want to learn, I don't want to gatekeep. But I think it's important that if you are curious about learning magic, I think that's wonderful. We can talk about it. You can read some books, but I'm not just going to tell someone secrets just because they want to know, because they're interested. They want to like scratch an itch. I think that's a no-no. But if you're genuinely interested in learning magic, I can like recommend a couple of books to you. You know, we can start talking about it. But
yeah, it's a great community. I can't think of another example of a world like this. Even stand-up comedy, I'm told, like early, like 100 years ago in the Catskills, like people just did the same jokes too. And it was like, hey, are you doing the joke about the mother-in-law tonight? Okay, I'm gonna do that. And then obviously now you can't steal jokes from each other. But with magic, it's tougher because it's like, oh, can I do a trick with a newspaper that if someone else does a different trick with the newspaper? But like with jokes, it would be like, oh, can I tell a joke where I make an observational point about something? It's very hard to define in all of these art forms, like exactly what is being unique and what is stealing. But I think we can all agree that the more you make something your own, the better it is for everybody, the audience included. You know?
And the more we're in magic, like the more I understand how to make things my own and original. Because there's a lot of published magic with scripts that you can just perform. And, you know, when I was much younger, I performed those scripts, but now I'm performing based on my own stories, based on my background and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
you might be able to do a kid's birthday show with something you read out of a book, word for word, but you're not going to have a career with, like, at some point you got to make it your own and people are going to see the authenticity.
Well, is it fair, speaking of careers and livelihoods, and I know that you probably both do many things beyond magic, writing, dancing, performing music,
juggling,
acting, juggling,
singing.
So how come there aren't more magicians? Like, or is it just my perception, or I feel like there's probably a lot more people doing stand-up comedy than there are doing magic, and there's more people doing music than there are doing stand-up comedy, and there's more people doing sports than there are doing music. Like, why are there fewer magicians?
I think it's really hard to do, and it's really scary to do for the first time. I mean, talk about like how intimidating it is to go to an open mic and try stand-up if you've never done it before. With magic, like if you're doing stand-up comedy and you mess up, it's like, well, that joke wasn't funny. If you do magic and mess up, you weren't funny.
All of a sudden, you're a phony.
And
like,
everyone,
you're a phony. Yeah, you reveal. It was so bad that we know how you did it. Like
you have to be okay.
like you ruined the art of magic for us. And
you have
also,
to know how to fail at magic.
Well, you certainly can't be afraid of it, because you're risking more than just one joke.
Well, that's part of the mentality, I think, as an audience member, as a sensitive person going in. It's like, oh shit, like, are they gonna fuck this up? Like, you know, I think everybody's sort of thinking that a little bit. So that's why when it works, it's so rewarding, because it's a relief also that, you know, but the stakes are high. At least they feel like that to an audience member.
And that's a common thing magicians do too, is they pretend to mess up so that way when they actually do the thing or get it right, it's like, wow, because people are always like almost expecting you to mess up.
It's also an old con artist thing, like you show someone
vulnerability,
or well, you get the audience to witness something they think they weren't supposed to see, so that they're more confident that they got you, but then you still trick them or get it. Like in 3-card Monty, let's say the corner of a card gets bent without the magician realizing it. I think Steve Martin did a bit on Johnny Carson like this. But if a corner of a card gets bent without the magician realizing it, now you can actually follow the cards. You think they messed up, but then at the end, the corner that's bent is on a different card. But you were, by having a little bit of confidence, you were willing to bet maybe more money on the con. But yeah, it's a classic trope that Penn and Teller leaned into a lot of, like, you reveal something, maybe on purpose or not, but then you still fool them.
Yeah. Do you think that your consciousness changes when it's showtime?
Yes.
Tell me about how does it change? What changes?
So naturally, I'm a very like sensitive, people pleaser, anxious, nervous, all of that kind of thing. Don't believe in myself, all of that kind of thing. But when I get onto that stage, it all goes away. It transcends sickness. Like if I have the stomach flu, which I have had the stomach flu while having to perform, it goes away. It's really interesting. I don't know if it's the adrenaline, it's the preparation. I've been like meditating before I perform, or just like pacing back and forth. It's like me like transitioning into like a different stream of consciousness, because once you're on that stage, it's showtime and you're in a different world. And I feel like an elevated person. I feel like a person that I would look up to, you know. If someone's heckling me, I know how to deal with it. I know how to tell them like, that's rude. But if someone's heckling me in the real world, like now, I would be a little shy away from it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do you feel when you're on stage?
Yeah, definitely a fugue state. And I wouldn't say that's unique to magic. I've done like comedy and stuff too. But like, yeah, you definitely, even like little things less than a stomach flu, just having to go to the bathroom, you forget about it. You know, you don't have to when you're on stage. You're so focused.
Yeah.
There was something that was weighing heavily on Elizabeth's mind yesterday before a show, and we won't go into the details of that, but for the hour and a half of like from when we went out there to when we fully ended the night, it was out of her mind, because afterwards she's like, oh, I just thought about it again. But like, it was out of her mind because there's no place. Like, we know we're performing and we have so much to think about and focus on. It's a total fugue state.
Yeah, even more than playing music in my mind, because when I play music or when I was in a band, I was very vulnerable on stage because I'm singing my words, my heart, my thoughts. And so I would actually have my bass player do all of the talking in between, like all the little bits in between and stuff, because I was really shy about it, which is really funny. But in magic now, I have to do all the little bits. I'm the bass player. I'm everything.
But it's not as personal.
Yeah, it's not, but it actually is starting to become a little more personal the more I do magic, because right now we do a lot of comedy bits and stuff. It's funny and fun, but I've actually started taking shrooms and like weed edibles and stuff, and it's interesting because I go into this stream of consciousness where I feel free and I feel like inspired to write a piece of magic, almost like I'm writing a song about my heart. And
writing a routine, writing a trick?
Writing a trick, yeah. Writing a script about whatever is happening, you know.
Oh, part of the show.
Part of the show, yeah. Even if people don't know it's about like my friend dying or something like that, I know that that's what it's about. And so I'm starting to incorporate a little bit of that more into in between the comedy bits and stuff like that.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this terrain then. Psychedelic augmentation of performance, because I know that people can utilize microdosing or macrodosing before even boxing matches, or if they feel like that's going to provide a certain perspective or insight, throughout the process. So can you elaborate on that aspect of what you've begun to do in terms of your performative state or therapeutic state to supplement?
Yeah, so I use it as a state to help create. I don't do it while I'm on stage because I have to be very on top of everything. I do want to experiment doing shrooms right before, or doing like an edible, but I'd have to
maybe a solo show.
No, but sometimes we do shows at like a weed store or something like that.
In the right situation.
In the right situation.
I'm also of the mindset good for creativity, not for on stage. But that's just me, and I'm not making a blanket statement.
Well, I've never done it before. That's me as well. But I would love to experiment just to see what that would be like. But because a lot of these routines we write while we are creative or in some sort of creative fugue state or on psychedelics, then it's like when I perform that routine, it's based on what I wrote when I was stoned. So it's like I go into that state. It's really interesting. But I was very much like a goody two-shoes, dare girl, scared of alcohol and drugs and all of that stuff. But I recently got diagnosed with all of these things like ADHD, depression, anxiety, CPTSD, blah, blah, blah. And my psychiatrist put me on Zoloft and Wellbutrin. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't have to like wake up feeling so depressed every morning. This is wonderful. But my creativity kind of went away. And
did it go away because you were expecting that it might, or you really noticed that it did?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because I know that's one of the, hey,
Could be a
if you
placebo
Google
effect.
online, or they might
Yeah.
say, but most likely if you do a search, what's going to happen to me if I start taking this? You might
Right.
notice a curbing of your creative capacity, or the
Yeah.
zest that's normally in you is less than it was before.
Right, because when I was feeling depressed, I don't know, it something about it also helped me be creative and think about life in different ways and da da da. But now I'm like, oh, I feel pretty good every day. Great. I'm gonna just like live my life. And so what happened is we are my friends and I were pitching a television show, or we were creating a television show. This was before Eric and I started dating. We were just friends, and they are stoners. And I was like, hey guys, let's write our first episode, and I will get stoned with you guys. How about that? And then they were like, what? Okay, cool. See, I didn't know anything about milligrams or anything like that. They had liquid weed. And I thought it was like a shot. So I'm 60 milligrams.
Okay.
And this is someone who does not do anything.
Had you not smoked
no.
cannabis before that moment?
I don't do anything. I'm so. I think I took a gummy once at an ex-boyfriend's house to help me sleep, but I was like sleeping through it. But this is my first time actually like experiencing really getting stoned. But I actually scared them because my heart started racing and I couldn't move, and then I just started noticing that the pictures were starting to sing to me and speak to me. And then I heard mariachi music and I was crying, and they gave me this like peanut butter sandwich and it started like singing to me. And then I was crying because I'm like, eventually I'm going to have to eat you because I have to. And then at a certain point, and my friends were like, do we have to take her to the hospital? And then I went out of myself and I started floating into the cosmos. And I then I flew over to an old middle school memory of mine where I'm at a middle school dance. It's my 8th grade dance, and I'm sitting alone wanting my crush to dance with me to the song All My Life by Casey and JoJo. And I'm really sad because he never does. And then I hear this like loud voice saying, there's much more life, so much more to life than this moment. Oh, no. The vastness of the universe is so much bigger than this moment, is what it said. And then at the time I was in a relationship, and then I realized I should leave that relationship. And I also realized that I should ask Eric out because he's my person. And that was all while I was just like very just psychedelically out of this world, and my friends were freaking out. But when I got out of that high, like 2 days later, I decided, yep, I'm going to do that. And now here we are.
Thank you for getting into the immensity of that story. To clarify one thing, the cannabis extract was meant to be utilized in baking brownies or something? What was it there for in liquid form?
It was just like form? You had to like, it's just like...
A tincture to put under your tongue?
It's called heavy hitters.
Okay.
And I kept going, I'm a heavy hitter, I guess. I'm a heavy hitter.
You gotta do branding.
And then we
watched.
For that. I know, I was like, I should totally be the billboard. And so whenever I tell the story, they're like, what's the brand? What did you use?
It was sold as a liquid to be taken...
To be sipped on a little bit.
Okay, by the group, by multiple people.
But I was like...
And you just knocked it back.
This is a shot.
Yeah. And do you know how long that experience occurred for? Because you really did have a full-on psychedelic experience, right? You were astral projecting and you were going back in time and speaking to spirit guides and the whole thing. It was like a pretty cosmic event. Afterwards, were there any kind of repercussions beyond that, beyond clarity? Can you see it as anything other than like one of the best thing that's ever happened to you?
It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And
that's so funny though, because I feel like you used to describe it as like that was the worst thing that ever happened to me.
It was, and let me tell you why it's now the best thing. It's interesting because it was my friends Trevor and Simon.
What's up, Trevor Simon?
Yes. Trevor is kind of like more the goody two shoes. Simon, also goody two shoes, but he's a little more like prankster type. And Trevor felt so bad. He felt so bad. He apologized, and Simon was like, "You're welcome." And so I felt like, I was like, I don't trust them anymore. You know, we're making this TV show, But now, after some time, after some thinking, after some therapy, all of that stuff, I'm like, I'm really happy that happened, because now I can actually, when I just take like 10 milligrams, I can go back to that. I can go back to that point and go into the cosmos. Even when I'm sober, or if like I meditate or something like that. I recently saw a spiritual guide, and I met my spirit guide, which is actually a lioness. And so it's easier for me to just go there, because I went there like hardcore, and I was never like that. I never did anything like that. And then I realized when I was 5, I astral projected or remotely viewed my grandmother dying, and that was a whole other true realization, which is so weird.
Something you had suppressed?
Yeah, and so I talked to my mom about it. I was like, I explained exactly how my grandma died, and she's like, "You were not in that room," but I'm like, "But I was above, wasn't I?" And
as a kid,
I wasn't. Yeah,
you
I
had
wasn't
memories
fine.
of experiencing it, but they weren't
Yeah.
clear until you had some shakeup.
Yeah, and I used to have sleep paralysis demons, and now I'm starting to get some more clarity of just like things that have happened in the past, and I don't get sleep paralysis demons anymore, and yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
It is interesting, and thank you for
Journey.
sharing. And now you can purposefully kind of provoke that something similar, but in a more metered and intentional manner. And that's usually 10 milligrams of a cannabis extract called Heavy Hitter.
Oh, I haven't done the heavy hitters. We should do the heavy hitters. No, I just do like a little weed gummy.
Okay,
I don't
but
even
you know
know.
it's around 10 milligrams is
Yeah.
like your dose, your sweet spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but sometimes I don't even need that. Sometimes if I just like really close my eyes and think about it, I can go back to the state of like calm and understanding and clarity. But like if something's weighing on me, like what happened yesterday, it's really hard to get to that place. But I think it's important to feel those emotions, cry them out, and then eventually knowing that I will get to a place of clarity.
Do you think there is something, because that sounds like a supernatural experience
Yeah.
above what we consider to be natural. Do
Yeah.
you believe that there's something supernatural in magic? Have you seen magic where you've thought, all right, that is something I can't explain, and I don't know if that person is entirely human that just pulled off that joke, or there had to have been some kind of angelic or alien or interdimensional intercession in order to pull that trick off? Is it just a given that you understand that every aspect of magic is by the creation of a human being, and it's just a psychological trick that enables it to happen? Because when I was at the Magic Castle, some of the things that I saw, I really did feel like there is absolutely no way that that person isn't kind of actually supernaturally talented.
Aw, that's awesome.
Maybe just because I've been around it since I was 0 years old, I've always seen it as, even if you're fooled, there is an explanation, even as a young child.
Yeah.
But still, like the feeling you get, and that we still get when we're fooled, which is less frequent than it used to be because we know so many
It's
like principles.
amazing when we get fooled
It's
now.
still as beautiful of a feeling, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, I want to know that or I have to know that. It's like, I don't know, and my mind is blown. And hopefully with a little storytelling, it's also like, and that was just beautiful. That was just a beautiful
And
thing.
do you ever want to know if you truly are fooled? Do you actually want to know how it's done? Or do you like to have that feeling?
No, I almost never want. I have to try and figure it out, but I don't want to know or be told. Typically, although there was one trick that I'm like, I just want to know how this works.
I know. I paid $600 for a trick because I just wanted to know how it was done. The box. I'm not going to say the name of the box, but the box.
Well, the box is a sword cabinet.
The
routine.
$600 box that I bought right before we bought our house with the ropes.
Oh,
it's this big.
oh.
Yeah, that box.
You could have just asked me.
Is that what magicians or people who practice magic and other performance modalities, is that what you do? You license or you purchase tricks to incorporate them into your repertoire?
Some magicians who have, I guess, are particularly creative, have decided not only do I want to use this, but I want to make money off this. So I'm going to publish it or I'm going to sell it. And the routine she's talking about is this thing that Dean Dill created. That was just a beautiful effect, totally his own, and therefore he decided, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to make money,
It's absolutely beautiful, but the thing is just a little too big to perform and take it places. But we have it at our house, and if someone comes in and they're like, what's that? Then we'll be like, well, let's sit down and I'll show you. We have some stuff like that in our house. We have a lot of different cards and just like weird looking things. Oh, what are those light bulbs? Well, let me show you. It's fun.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the differences between mentalism, sleight of hand? What are the delineations within the broader umbrella of magic, and how does an aspiring practitioner determine what is best or best suited for them?
There's a lot of ways to categorize magic, and that's one of them. Like, oh, is it close up, parlor, or stage? And that's categorizing it by the size of the room or the audience. And then you could categorize it by like sleight of hand, mentalism, grand illusion maybe. And that's like where the magic takes place in your hands or in your mind or something. But magicians aren't really happy. Like there's still debate about these categorizations. Like there should be a better way to do it. And so I've started to write a book. I have like a book proposal about the 13 archetypes of magic. And I think I can break it down in a better way than has been done so far. But it's something I'm still kind of working through.
Who would that benefit? Other practitioners?
I think it would be interesting to everybody who's just interested in like a little bit of history of magic, because that's going to be part of it. But basically, I'm trying to define the types of magic by like, what is the magician's goal? Why are they doing it? And the effect they're having on the audience. Like, are they trying to inspire with their work? To wow with their work, to flirt with their work,
To make people laugh. Like there's comedy magic too.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, or to instill a sense of childlike wonder. Like, literally, why is the magician performing? I think that should be the way to categorize magic, because a lot of the other systems get very blurry and.
It just, I don't like labels. I hate that we have to label. But I think that your book will help with that and understanding a little more. And it's interesting because you brought up the Philosophical Research Society, because you're writing that book, didn't you get introduced to the Philosophical Research Society?
Maybe, yeah. We first met the head of the Joseph Campbell Foundation, John Booker, and he's been helping me like sort through some of this stuff. And then he introduced us to Dennis at PRS. But very cool ecosystem that we find ourselves in LA.
Right?
Just, and it sounds like you're
part
in
of
this
it
world
too.
too.
Well, it's new for me, and I put off this move for a long time. I tried to make things work on the East Coast, explore there, and then come back home and try to do things back home and be a part of the community and add to the community, learn from the community. And this was always like on the radar, but actually being on the ground, if you make the effort, you can get involved in a pretty exciting, interconnected, and enriching community at large. I want to talk about this phenomenon of stun that I alluded to earlier when I was at the Magic Castle, and physiologically, emotionally, it's a kind of unique state of mind, and you elicit that regularly from people. So what do you hear from people after shows, or what's your engagement like with others? Like musicians have fans that come see them. Do magicians have fans that show up regularly? What do people want to know? What do they expect? What's that connection like beyond the show? Like, tell me more about that dynamic.
So I have a couple of fans who have been fans of mine since I was in college, since I was in music. So they're actually just a fan of mine, which is interesting. So I'm like, I don't know if they're a fan of magic, but do we have people who are fans of our magic that you can think of?
Yeah, a ton of people.
Okay. We have people who are fans, but who come regularly to shows.
In our magic community, we definitely have a pretty large group of people who like us. Maybe they like us as people, or they like us as work, probably both, and that they seem to rotate through seeing us regularly.
And I always get so embarrassed. I'm like, oh, sorry, you already saw our show. Oh, no. But there's something new this time. But they genuinely seem to want to see our show multiple times, which is really nice.
Well, you go to see a band play, and they're not playing an entirely new set every time if they're an original band, you know?
But there's something that you can connect with more, I feel.
Singing along. You can't perform along with the trick. Although I would imagine that part of the fun of seeing a trick again is to sort of study it and see, like, what am I missing, or can I catch something this time, or what can I learn about the operation of this? I mean, I would want to see some of those tricks again, absolutely, and try to, like, solve them as we go.
And I will say, for at least our magic shows, it's different every time because we incorporate a lot of mentalism to it, or volunteers. And when you have a volunteer, that's kind of interesting because you never know what's gonna
from the audience.
Yeah, from the audience. We do something called second sight, where I close my eyes and I kind of like remotely view what people are holding, and I'm like, okay, you're holding a lipstick, or so. That's kind of interesting. I always like seeing other second sight routines for the same reason. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, but see, now you've revealed on this show, and it's out there for all the world for all time, that you did see your grandmother's passing from above her by the ceiling, and you are a remote viewer. So when the CIA comes knocking, don't be surprised. I think you probably have some kind of magical thing, like, in your DNA.
There's some kind of Stranger Things situation,
interesting?
I think, maybe.
Back in like 3 years ago or something like that, my abuela, she comes to my show at the Black Rabbit Rose, and she comes up to me and she says this in Spanish, but she's like, did you know that my father was a magician in the 1920s in Honduras? And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. I'm like, I have it in my DNA. And not only was he a magician, he was also a psychic too. And he stopped practicing, I guess, being a psychic because he saw something bad in some cards, and he like locked it away. And,
Wow.
So then I actually, Eric helped me craft a routine based off of him and his story. So I don't know, maybe there's some Santeria going on. I'm not sure. But it's interesting because I was also talking to this spiritual guide, and he said that he spoke with my ancestors, and that he senses that I have some sort of psychic ability. And I am a very like scientifically based person. This whole spirituality part of me is very recent, and I think it's because with our success, there's a lot more obstacles now that we're going up here. And as a people pleaser, it's really hard for me to deal with haters sometimes. So I felt like I needed something stronger than me, something bigger than me to help me go through it. And for me, that's the universe. And when I see signs, I now start following the signs. For example, me in the cosmos being like, you need to be with Eric. And that's why we go by the Cosmic Romantics. Basically, I asked him out. He said no because we were professional. So I kind of start dating around. There's this guy that I kind of start dating. I go on a cruise ship. The day I get back, I have a really bad food poisoning, and the guy I'm sort of dating is not responding to me. But Eric, he picks me up and he nurses me back to health. And he reveals his feelings for me. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to tell this guy I'm kind of seeing, like, oh, Eric and I are together. Turns out he died the same day Eric revealed his feelings to me. Crazy, right?
I always have to say this, but I had nothing to do with it, because that's half the time that's like...
Yeah. He didn't know that this guy existed. Well, no, you did know that he existed, actually.
I know he existed.
Our magic mentor, who is now also passed, was trying to make Eric jealous, because he's like, she's seeing a Jewish doctor who's strong and da-da-da. And I guess it kind of worked. But weird. It was so sad and weird and ugh. And now the guy who knew him also died. So I'm like, did he even exist? I don't know.
That was being aware of signs and sort of, seeing what to follow and kind of how to glean insight.
The timing of that was really strange. Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, now how am I going to have to tell this guy? And I'm like, oh, I don't have to. Whoa, that's weird. really, and yeah.
Well, you've shown a little bit about your heredity and DNA, and you mentioned at the beginning that your father was a magician, and you were kind of maybe cajoled into this beyond your better judgment, or maybe kicking in and at least fussing a bit. Tell us about your magical DNA.
Yeah, my dad was a magician. Well, I actually rebelled against it, so I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn to juggle. Which is so funny because that's not really getting that far away, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is
like
totally
you weren't going to be an accountant. You're like, I'm going to show him.
Yeah,
I'm going to juggle instead.
I have another friend in Chicago, Leah, who her parents are magicians, so she's like, oh, I'm going to be an acrobat. It's like, he didn't
Right. It could still fit under the same tent if necessary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now Leah is actually coming up with the first magic convention that is very female-centric.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's doing great.
She's doing great, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my dad was a magician. He would like force my brother and me to be like his assistant in various shows.
So you've been sawed in half numerous times.
My mom
Your
was
mom
actually
has.
the one who got in the box. I just stood there and handed him things and did a couple little things of my own. My uncle was a gambler also who never really had a real job, except I think he worked at a Sears for like 6 months, but then he went to Vegas and blew it all. But he just survived on the south side of Chicago by hosting poker games and stuff. So those are the things that probably contributed me to ending up here. But I got away from magic for many years and really didn't think about it. And partly because it just felt like it wasn't cool when I was a kid, like in the 90s. There was like a lot of hack magicians out there. It didn't seem cool to me at the time, but now I feel like it's like back in vogue and, you know, it's popular again. But I actually moved to LA 12 years ago to be a screenwriter, and then just naturally talk about following the signs. Like, it's hard, number one, and I had one project, it was just a bad experience, and then a friend of mine got me back thinking about magic again, and then I became a member at the Magic Castle. And I will say the first routine that we did, which I thought was pretty sloppily thrown together, that I did with my buddy Dan, got great feedback, and I'm like, wow, that wasn't that hard, and people like really enjoyed that. It was funny and it was magic, and we did a few more things, and I was always surprised by how much people liked that. And so I had to be like, look, this is picking up traction, and there's way fewer magicians in LA, and there's still a lot, but then screenwriters. I gotta go with this. Maybe I'll find my way back to it at some point, but
and
the magic has been fun, and we've been successful at it, you know.
And what's great is we can use our background in our magic routine.
100%.
My background in music, his background in juggling, writing, acting, all of that stuff, which I feel really lucky to have that background because not every magician does. A lot of magicians started when they were really young. See, I started when I was young, and then we both quit when we were kids. So I feel like it's a gift that I had a background in other stuff, immersive theater, avant-garde, weird theater. So
yeah, I've heard about these forced magic farms where the kids are kept in cages until they can teleport themselves out, and they have to conjure up their own cooking if they want to eat.
But yeah, I feel like we're just manifesting what we came here to do. I came to LA to write music, and actually when I was 12 I really wanted to write psychological horror films. I used to write them when I was a kid, and so the dream is to eventually have our own production company, and then we can just make our own movies.
But it's great because we didn't actually give up on the things we wanted to do. We're just for now doing magic because it's working.
Yeah,
it's working.
But we'll find our way back to it.
Well, before we split, tell us about how it's working and what that rising star up into the constellation of the cosmic lovers is all about. Cosmic romantics. Tell us about this rise that you're on right now.
Oh,
Vegas, you're traveling.
Yeah.
The show is
Okay.
like active. And
I mean, we both have material separately, but coming together, the show becomes like a lot more than we're greater
what's
than
the word?
sum of our parts.
2 + 2 = 5.
Yeah, something
We're greater
like
than
that.
the sum of our parts. It's as soon as we got together, because we were both thinking about leaving magic. Just we were both going through our own thing, and then we got together and we're like, whoa, this show's gonna be really beautiful. And it is. And now we're inspiring each other. And we also kind of see the Matrix too, meaning we both have our different perspectives on things like in the magic community. So we can more easily judge people's goodness based on how they treated both of us. We're like, that person's a good person.
I see.
Oh, wait, that person has ulterior motives. Because we were separate.
Our next step right now, I think, is cruises. We actually booked our first one in November.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
the
we
Magic
wanna-
Castle Conjurers cruise.
That's right. And we want to spend the next couple of years doing that and then just kind of like settle back here. But yeah, we would love, we're inspired to like maybe have a little show in Vegas.
Not a little show, a big show in Vegas.
Maybe start as a little show, get bigger. TV shows. We have all kinds of things, but we know that if nothing else, we have a show that we feel great about and is working and, you know.
I recently learned in manifesting your dreams, it's important to dream big because if you dream big, you can actually achieve that dream if you truly believe it. So right now we know how to do cruise ships. That's not a dream of ours. That's just something that we know how to do. A dream is something you don't know how to achieve, but you're excited to learn how to. And I think it's important to have that positive mindset. We will achieve this. We will. We are achieving it, and learning to have that mindset makes things a little easier, especially financially, because right now we're still a little bit struggling, starving artists, but it's okay. It doesn't exist because soon enough we're going to have enough money to even help people and, you know, help people further their careers as we further ours and have a beautiful community together and lift each other up and make everyone's dreams come true.
I love that. What are the practices that you enjoy, Eric, that help center you, steady you, so you can accomplish everything you have to accomplish and give yourself grace and be productive? What do you like to do for yourself that you know is purely of benefit?
To kind of keep myself focused on...
Just as a quality of life effort.
I like simplicity and consistency in my life, and I want to always try to remove distractions and just focus on the things that bring me joy. It's funny. I think I'm one of the, small percentage of the population that when COVID exploded, like it ended up being good for me, you know, not happy that it happened, but in lockdown, I got to, you know, we have all these social obligations that we get entangled in. And that I think gave everyone like a reset point, and it allowed me time with myself to kind of be creative and more unique with the kind of work I was putting out. And I got attention for the stuff I did during that time, just like I would post a video a week on Instagram.
He juggled in his underwear is what he did, and it was hot.
Oh, wow.
Well, I did a lot of that.
He did a lot of that.
The erotic
magic
pandemic.
that had never been done.
He turned into Eric Thurston.
That's when I developed that character, yeah. But no, I was like being inventive in a lot of ways. And even that closet thing you're talking about, I like took this closet in my apartment and the doors flung out and these curtains popped out, and I've never seen anyone do that. It was just like a fun, it was like a creative time for me.
Yeah, uh-huh.
But it helped me reset and just focus on what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I've tried to be more thoughtful with the decisions I make. Not like I was ever super rash, but I
He
want to
grounds me.
always... Yeah,
He's
I
very
want to
grounded.
always be forward thinking. And
Yeah. When he created the character Eric Thurston, all the girls came out of the woodwork, and then including me. I was like, he juggles because I love juggling. Because it's like you said, with juggling, it's a skill you can see. And I'm like, wow. So I got my juggler.
You might have alluded to this earlier too, but for you, Elizabeth, grounding practices, wellness practices, things that you kind of want to make sure you're incorporating into your life so that you can get done the things you aspire to get done.
Yeah, I have something. It's like my meditation room. It's my princess room. It's my everything room. I have all these plants, and I have an old doll house. It's a sunroom with fairy lights, and I can close the doors, and I go in there to meditate. I do yoga, psychiatry, therapy. I see a spiritualist. I take my antidepressants. I talk to my friends. I have princess parties where we give each other positive affirmations. I have like this mirror in my princess room where I'm like, you're a good person, Elizabeth. I'm a lot more difficult. And then Eric and I work really well together. We're starting to do this thing where he triages all the things we need to do. And then I just like follow, oh, today I need to work on SEO because I'm very ADHD and like my mind will wander and I'll just organize my closet or I'll do this or that. So he's grounds me a lot.
But creating and curating a space for you specifically is a way that you can...
My safe space.
Yeah.
It's really important to have my safe space.
Yeah. Well, how can people find you in your safe space or in all the other spaces that you're populating currently on your journey?
On Instagram, at the Cosmic Romantics. On TikTok, at the Cosmic Romantics.
And on YouTube at the Cosmic Romantics, although we
that's
don't
actually all you have to remember.
Just
remember the.
Remember the. Yeah, we have trademarked the Cosmic Romantics.
Also, live venues. We're probably in LA at Black Rabbit Rose and the Magic Castle and Illusion Magic Lounge the most. Those.
Sometimes Chicago Magic Lounge if you're in Chicago.
That's right.
If you want to have us at your wedding or corporate event or something like that, we'll see you there too.
Our schedules are open and we're waiting for your calls.
Or cruise ships too.
Well, I enjoyed the show when I saw it so much, and I thought you both seemed like really cool people that I wanted to visit with further. I'm glad you were open to the idea of coming on to this podcast. We could probably talk more about psychedelics or medicine journeys or other metaphysical or psychospiritual aspects of life as well, but I think this was a good introduction, and it's sort of scratched some of my itches and questions that I had about your chosen practice, about the craft, and about the mentality behind it. I want to respect your time. I could keep going, but maybe we'll connect again for another conversation in the future.
That would be awesome.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That'd be great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us, Matthew.
And we disappear.